Watch this.
I'm happy to say we're finalizing the plans.
They might not have met their October 1st deadline, but the fight for Idaho's water is changing course soon with the new mitigation plan. Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke tells us what's coming upstream. Today marks the first day of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's uncomfortable to talk about, but conversations are one way that advocates are working to protect those in vulnerable positions. Absentee ballots are on their way, and Election Day is almost exactly a month out. We're taking your questions on Decision 2024, like, what's a magistrate judge anyways? Well, today, October 1st, has been circled on calendars across our great state of Idaho. The expected due date for a new water mitigation plan, a plan to make sure that senior surface water users are able to fill their first-in-time, first-in-right water priority. The plan also addresses groundwater users who, for the most part, are junior water rights holders. And if you need a refresher, you can watch our whole water rights special on ktvb.com or the 208 YouTube page called Liquid Assets. It's fantastic. But today, we have new information on a plan moving forward. But is the deal finalized? I spoke to Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke, who is leading the water negotiations, to find out. It's harvest season across Idaho. Farmers and agriculture operations seeing the fruits and veggies of their labor. It's a very busy time, and on top of all of this, they're also negotiating a major new water mitigation plan.
I'm happy to say we're finalizing the plans.
Idaho Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke has been at the table facilitating a deal between surface and groundwater users. The state of Idaho follows the prior appropriation doctrine that is popular in the West. First in time, first in right, and that's for water rights. Senior priority water rights, who are often surface water users, they get their water fulfilled first. And then those junior, usually groundwater users, they get the rest. And if there's not enough water to go around to fill all the rights, those junior users could potentially be cut off. The problem, though, it derives in part from a decline in spring flows and water levels in the eastern Snake Plain aquifer, which has been dropping since the 1950s as groundwater pumping for irrigation increased and farming techniques across the board have changed in recent decades. A mitigation plan for all of this is needed to address water shortfalls in use. The goal was to have it all ironed out by October 1st.
Those of us that are in agriculture knew that October would be a tough, that all of September and October would be a tough month to get everybody to sit down and to go through it. So I don't know that anybody is surprised, but I'm happy to report that we do have the fundamentals of a deal.
The deal is close, and it's taken months of dedicated work from all parties.
There were issues. We had tough, candid, sometimes heated conversations, but everybody, I think, rose to the challenge, listened to their better angels, if you will, and they watched out for themselves, but they also watched out for their neighbors.
The framework is highly detailed and intricate to discuss, so yes, it is very difficult for us to break down for you, but Lieutenant Governor says that the ideas for a lasting plan are organic.
These are their ideas. These are not ideas that are coming and being forced upon them by the state. The state has a responsibility to manage the water and do it in a way that is responsible not only to this generation, but to the next generation. And so all of these components, all of these principles are in this agreement, and it's all but finalized now.
A key to the conversation is metering water use. Fingers have been pointed back and forth in terms of who measures and how. Lieutenant Governor Bedke says metering is mandatory, just to be clear, and there is movement with an eye for the future.
We're moving towards real-time data collection so that everyone knows, and that's one of the components of this agreement, is that there will be, the data will be available, at least at this juncture, at least every month. And that data will be made available to those that ask for it.
So what is the delay on the October 1st deadline? Well, it's a good reason that is understood across the board: due diligence.
And so that's what's taken a little bit more time, is to make sure that every eventuality is covered. A lot of if-then statements in this agreement, so that everyone knows and everyone's going forward with their eyes wide open, so that there are fewer surprises.
So when the deal is finalized, will it pass the test of time?
Can I tell you that when we have this conversation, Joe, 10 years from now, there won't be some problems? I can't say that because my experience has taught me otherwise. But we are doing the best we can with the information that we have available now.
I also just want to add something that the lieutenant governor said to me that stuck out. The fact that there was a press release put out today from the governor's office, lieutenant governor's office, leaders on both sides of the issue, it shows the indication that this is a close deal. They wouldn't be putting out press releases with everybody on the same one if there were still major disagreements. So what happens next? Well, the next step for the mitigation plan is the full review and approval by the groundwater district boards and the canal boards, as well as their membership. So that'll take time. The challenge now is to communicate all of the intricacies to their members so they can have an educated vote. The Wapiti Fire, Lava Fire, Middle Fork Complex, the Durkee Fire. You've heard us talk about all of these. There's been dozens of fires in our region, and it's part of the reason you might be paying more at the grocery store for your beef. That's right. Hunter Funk, you spoke with the cattle associations about the impact of the fires across Idaho. It sounds like it's not something that we're going to miss out on.
Right, yeah. Recently, we've seen the price index go up more than 4% August of this year compared to August of last year. Now, these fires are not helping change that upward trend. This is the time of year when cattle go to graze, but when there's a fire like the ones we've seen near Stanley and Cascade, it's burned a large amount of the land that can be used for this, and that means buying hay, which increases the cost of the rancher. Not only that, but in these fires, ranchers have lost dozens of cattle.
As we possibly could see a herd reduction again due to some of these fires and some of the limitations for forage and costs for those producers, it could, continue to impact us for 2 or 3 years because, if we sell a mature cow now and choose to replace her with a heifer next year, her first calf won't be till the following year. So there's a 2-year lag.
It takes about 2 years until plants can grow and produce seeds to become good piece of land for cattle to graze. The Idaho Cattle Association says we also won't know the total loss of cattle from the fires until coming back to the valley later this month. And with the fires from the last few years, it's impacted the prices we see now, and we'll likely continue to see price increases from the current fires in the few years. So simply put, there's less supply, but there's demand and it remains the same. And it's just one of the reasons that we have seen these increases to prices. And again, coming up at 10, we're going to break down more of these challenges, why we're seeing these price increases, and also ways you can possibly save some money for beef.
Well, it shows just the intricacy in the way that the microsystems and everything, it's a domino effect.
Yep.
A fire out in Eastern Oregon could cost how much a hamburger costs next year. Looking forward to a report at 10, Hunter. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joe.
On the heels of Boise State, we have an update for you. The Wyoming women's volleyball team, we have learned this afternoon, is officially deciding to forfeit their match on October 5th against San Jose State University. Just like Boise State last week, Wyoming didn't say why they're forfeiting in their statement today, saying, quote, after a lengthy discussion, the University of Wyoming will not play its scheduled conference match against San Jose State University at Wyoming on Saturday. They will have a loss for the forfeit, just like Boise State. But we do know in April of this year, Redux, an online publication, claimed that San Jose State volleyball player Blair Fleming is transgender. According to Blair's teammate, Brooke Slusser's amendment to a lawsuit that was filed in September, the day the Redux story dropped, by the way, on April 17th, Blair told her teammate, Brooke Slusser, that she did in fact identify as a transgender woman. So since then, Southern Utah University forfeited its women's volleyball match against San Jose State without saying why. We reported to you last week on Friday, Boise State, they also forfeited against San Jose State without saying why. And now today, the University of Wyoming forfeited their match against San Jose State without saying why. I wonder what the common connection is here. So far, the only thing we've heard from the Mountain West is this quote. They said to an email response to a bunch of my questions, quote, it's an institutional matter. San Jose State is still scheduled to come to Boise to play Boise State on November 21st. We'll let you know if anything changes, but the NCAA, the Mountain West, the schools, they are mum. All right, if you requested an absentee ballot in Idaho, it's on the way. If you haven't got it already, you can also still request one. But the ballots coming out, they prompt great questions like this. I'm looking at my November ballot, and there's a whole page of magistrates. Using Google, I can't find any information. Are there ways to see judges' rulings or any way for Idahoans to research these judges? It's a great question that we struggle with, too. And for starters, what is a magistrate judge? Well, they hear less serious criminal matters, misdemeanors, as well as things like civil cases that are under $10,000. Magistrates also hold preliminary things like sending a defendant to district court for trial on a felony charge. Magistrate judges, they also do some work on divorces, as well as some other things. But you're not picking judges. When you get your ballot, you'll notice that you're asked if you want to retain the judges. So it's a yes or no question. It's not a candidate selection, it's yes or no. But researching them, it's really difficult. It can be really hard because these magistrates, they don't really campaign, and they really can't campaign. It's a little quirk of our elections, but we vote on judges because this is how the law is set up in Idaho, similar to how county coroners are voted on in Idaho. Judges in other states, they are handled differently. But in the state of Idaho, magistrate judges, they're appointed to the bench by a commission. They have that initial 18-month term, and then they're retained or not, going on to serve 4-year terms. So long story short, it's a good question. Look into, I guess, any stories that you could be possibly personally invested in. But we're working on this, seeing if there's a better way to handle it. According to the Lebanon Health Ministry, 55 people are dead and over 150 injured after Iran's missile attack on Israel today. Morgan Romero tells us what U.S. Senator Jim Risch from Idaho, what his response to the attack is in today's 411.
Our national security depends a very large degree on the allies that we have.
We asked Senator Jim Risch today about Iran's missile attack on one of America's closest allies, Israel. Israeli officials say Iran fired dozens of missiles into their country. This is after Israel's ground invasion into Lebanon and an Israeli airstrike over the weekend. President Biden is directing the U.S. military to shoot down missiles targeting Israel. Nicholas Umfenauer is set to be sentenced in Ada County Friday morning for shooting 2 Idaho Department of Correction officers while breaking Skylar Mead out of IDOC custody at St. Alphonsus in Boise after the hospital treated Mead for injuries he gave himself. Court records show Umfenauer pleaded guilty late last month to half a dozen charges, including escape and battery or assault on an officer. Currently, Skylar Mead is serving a life sentence. The Pac-12 is one step closer to becoming an official conference. Today, Gonzaga announced it's leaving the WCC and joining Boise State in the Pac-12 beginning July 1st, 2026. This means the Pac-12 now has 8 teams, but Gonzaga doesn't have a football team. So the conference does still need one more football school to become a legitimate conference in the eyes of the NCAA. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Morgan Romero.
This Sunday, we're remembering the tragic death of one of our community members and other domestic violence victims at the Sue B Run and Walk. So today, we're going to remember Sue and learning about who she was and why her message is so crucial. It's that time again. Send us your questions, comments, and concerns to the number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Don't forget your name and hashtag the 208 so we can show yours live at the end of the show. Today marks the first day of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and each year, on the first Sunday of October, a local woman is remembered. Her name is Susan Bredesen Newby, also known as Sue B. She died in 2008 at the age of 53 from a mysterious horseback riding incident. It wasn't until after her death that police suspected that she was in an abusive relationship and her husband may have been involved in her death. This Sunday, she'll be remembered at the 10K walk put on by the Women and Children's Alliance in her name. Our Aspen Schumpert met one of Sue's friends to hear about who Sue was before she passed.
Death leaves a heartache no one can heal, but the memories of the ones we lost become a treasure.
I need to get some paint and touch up this.
When Teresa Andrew wants to feel her friend, she'll visit the horse chestnut tree in Boise's Kristen Armstrong Park.
A good friend deserves to be remembered.
Andrew says Susan was a woman who adored many hobbies, like cooking, soccer, and horseback riding.
Horses were probably her true love. I think if she was here now, she would still be breeding and training horses.
Newby died mysteriously in 2008 from a horseback riding accident while at Rock Canyon in Eagle with her husband, Mark.
He answered the phone and he was kind of sobbing and said that she'd fallen off the horse had bucked her off and she was in the canyon and she didn't survive.
But something felt off to her friends and family.
I just felt haunted. I felt like she was telling me something's wrong. She wouldn't walk her horse along the edge of a cliff, and horses would not walk along the edge of a cliff.
It wasn't until after her death police suspected she was most likely in an abusive relationship with her husband. Ada County Sheriff's Office says they suspect Mark pushed Sue off her horse and off the cliff of the canyon. When deputies went to serve a search warrant at their house, they say Mark barricaded himself inside. He died by suicide.
We were finding out all these things that we didn't know about, the isolation and the browbeating and all the different things to get control of her.
She says it was hard to hear.
It was a really heartbreaking thing that we couldn't help her at the time because we didn't know.
Sue's friends and family turned to the Women's and Children's Alliance for support.
I remember very clearly getting a call from Marge, who's Sue's sister, and they really wanted to honor her memory.
Now Sue is honored every year at the Sue B 10K walk event, this year being the 15th.
It's a good day. I get excited when I see people, especially kids and younger people, because they need to know. I think it's important that they come and they learn that you don't need to be treated, it's wrong. You shouldn't be treated that way.
The event allows for conversations about domestic violence to take place.
Having that opportunity to recognize in the midst of something so tragic that can be an opportunity to help others better understand what to look out for and also what the resources are.
And a promise the ones close to Sue B continue to keep.
We promised Sue on her deathbed that we would never let her be forgotten. So here we are.
Again, the Sue B Walk is happening this Sunday, October 6th in Julia Davis Park. You can still sign up on the Women's and Children's Alliance website. The WCA says the Sue B Endowment Fund in its lifetime has raised over $250,000. Those funds help the WCA continue to provide resources, including court advocates, therapy sessions, and safe houses where domestic violence and sexual assault victims and survivors can go. The WCA does have a 24-hour domestic abuse and sexual assault hotline that you can reach by calling the number on your screen, again, 208-343-7025.
I really appreciate one of the comments in your story where, you need to talk about this as a community because there are some people that are treated this way and they don't know how wrong it really is.
Yeah. Teresa said, even just asking your friend, hey, are you okay? Or, hey, does he always talk to you like that? And maybe the answer is no, but maybe it's yes, and you can help out a friend.
It's okay to ask questions. It can be uncomfortable, but it can make a big difference.
Yeah.
All right, Aspen Schumpert reporting. We're going to take a break, 208. We'll be right back.
Love seeing the fall foliage. It is on full display across much of our viewing area. Might have been a little too cold this morning to go out and do some leaf peeping. These were our observed temperatures this morning. We dipped well down into the 30s across much of the Treasure and Magic Valleys this morning. Stanley hit 20 degrees around sunrise for this first day of October. Pretty wild temperature swings today as Stanley got into the 70s this afternoon. Normally in Boise in October, we see those morning lows into the upper 40s. By the end of the month, we're down into the mid 30s. This is kind of a preview of the month ahead since we're in October 1st or in the month of October right now. Typically for October 1st, those daytime highs are around 73 degrees. And by the time we wrap up the month, we are normally down into those upper 50s as far as temperatures go. It's been a really beautiful day after that nose-numbing start. We're at 76 degrees in Boise right now. Very light winds at just 3 miles per hour. And look how dry we are. Humidity right now at 10%. Very dry air mass in place. That means even with those cold temperatures, we didn't see a whole lot of frost this morning, and overnight tonight temperatures won't cool quite as far for your Wednesday morning. Here's your evening outlook for today. Tons of sunshine. Our sunset right around 7:25. We'll dip into the 60s and 50s pretty quickly after sunset. But after this, a pretty nice week ahead. A dry cold front comes in overnight tonight. That will drop our temperatures for Wednesday and Thursday, more low to mid 70s, and bring in some breezy winds as well tomorrow. We get a little windy on Friday, but warmer as well, up to 83 degrees to wrap up the work week. Trending cooler Saturday, but really beautiful long term with sunshine and highs around 80 as we head into next week.
All right, let's get to some of your comments, questions, whatever you sent in. This person says, I want to return my absentee ballot by United States mail. Will one stamp cover the postage? That's Vicky in Fruitland. Great question, Vicky. Yes, one stamp, put on your absentee, put it in the mailbox or drop it in the mailbox. You'll be good to go. If you don't want to use a stamp, you can always go to your county clerk and drop it off there. All right. Next one from Scott. With all these schools forfeiting their games against San Jose State, I wonder if the players on these volleyball teams that are forfeiting support this decision. Definitely need to interview some players. Scott, it's a great point. We would love to interview any of the players on Boise State or within the Mountain West. We are happy to talk to you. Please reach out. And we got one more, I think. Nope, that's all of them. That's it. So no news at 6 tonight. We're going to have debate coverage, the vice presidential debate coverage that'll kick off at about 6 o'clock here tonight. NBC Nightly News is next.